Fortnite has created some of the most viral creators and esports players that the world has ever seen. But sometimes these streamers start out successful and then completely fall off.
I look back on what I've done and feel good about it, you know?
Today, I'm going to talk about one player who went from a nobody to a viral sensation.
This dude really pissing me off.
Silence so to be popular. Are you just for the popular?
But then all of the love and attention suddenly disappeared. This is the rise and fall of Fortnite's youngest player, Moneymaker. Moneymaker, also known by his real name Måns, was born on January 3rd of 2009 in Sweden. According to his YouTube channel, he made his channel only 2 years later on February 8th of 2011, so either his parents made this account or the 2-year-old Moneymaker was planning on being internet famous as a toddler. Anyways, Moneymaker started gaming at a super young age, and like most people, he started playing on console. Moneymaker would play his first ever game of Fortnite back in Season 3 during February of 2018 when he was just 9 years old. Then he started to get into the game a little bit more during Season 9, but other than that, we don't know a ton about him. Normally, I like to go into details about a person's childhood and what brought them into gaming, but we don't really know a lot about Moneymaker. And it seems like he kind of likes being mysterious because every time somebody asks him a genuine question about his life or really about anything, he just starts trolling. We don't know what games he played before Fortnite.
What games were you playing before Fortnite? Like Minecraft or Pub Penguin?
No, probably
Roblox?
You know, yeah, you know, no. You know that one game, you know? That one, yeah.
Which one?
That one, you know?
No, I don't know.
No, you know what I mean?
We don't know what his parents think about his pro gaming career.
What do your parents think about you streaming?
I don't know.
Do they even care?
Yeah.
That's good. Were they supportive?
Yeah.
That's good. My parents were not supportive. They told me to quit streaming.
And apparently he has 7 girlfriends.
Have you ever had a girlfriend, Moneymaker?
Okay, why is that question though? That's not even... Obviously, I have 7 right now.
You have 7 right now.
But let's be real, all of this privacy is probably on purpose and for the best. Moneymaker is really young, and it's hard to stay safe while being such a big name online, so I wouldn't be surprised if his family told him to keep his personal info to himself. And even though we don't know a ton about his personal life, we do know a lot about his Fortnite history. Moneymaker played his first event on February 22nd of 2019 in the Share the Love Cup. He placed 4,796th in solos, which on the surface is pretty bad, but then if you do the math correctly, you'll realize he did this at only 10 years old. And if you've read the Fortnite terms and agreements before, you'll also know that Moneymaker being 10 years old was 3 years below the minimum age required to compete and make money playing Fortnite. However, Moneymaker would continue to play tournaments regardless through the rest of 2019 and 2020. And it was around this time that Moneymaker would finally dip his toes into the social media game on November 3rd of 2020 when he would post his first ever highlights video. That obviously wasn't the original music, but, you know, copyright. And speaking of content, when I'm brainstorming or researching for my videos, I find it a lot easier to just speak my thoughts instead of writing them down. But the thing is, I always forget important details or have a hard time finding my notes later. And that's where the sponsor of this video, PLAUD, comes in. PLAUD is an AI smart assistant for taking notes. It captures everything I say, even when I'm in a noisy environment like gaming conventions or other live events like the Pro-Am. The noise reduction is super strong, and it even labels speakers so you know exactly who's saying what. It's small enough to snap into my phone or just slip into my wallet. And that's not even the best part, because it doesn't just transcribe my words, it also summarizes them and creates to-do lists, which saves me a ton of time when making my videos. Imagine turning a 3-hour-long creative meeting with my editors into a 30-second summary. That is the magic of PLAUD. And unlike your phone, PLAUD won't die halfway through your day or run out of storage, because it has 64 gigabytes of memory with over 30 hours of recording. And with AWS privacy protocols, you know that all this data you're storing is safe, so you don't have to worry about leaking any of your ideas. So right now, you can get 20% off your brand new PLAUD with the code TIMMY20, and you can check out the link in my description below. Now, back to the video. Despite starting to upload his highlights on YouTube, Moneymaker still hadn't made his first earnings, and he wouldn't achieve that until October 18th at the end of 2021. And yes, that means he made his first earnings before he turned 13 years old, so shh, nobody tell Epic Games. Moneymaker finally turned 13 though just a few months later on January 3rd of 2022. Obviously, this wasn't a huge deal to Moneymaker because he was already playing before while breaking the rules, but being able to actually participate did open up potential opportunities like going to LAN events. On top of that, some of his fellow pros would be more likely to team with him because they wouldn't have to worry about him getting banned. And at this time, that was important to Moneymaker because he was taking Fortnite very seriously. In the year 2022, at just 13 years old, Moneymaker earned over $3,000. But little did he know that next year, Fortnite was about to change Moneymaker's life forever. 2023 started like any other year for the young GOAT. He had his birthday, played in a few cash cups, and brought home a couple $1,000s. But then the FNCS Major 1 qualifiers would come around, and he would duo with Brantman. Normally, Moneymaker would get knocked out in the early rounds when he would play FNCS in earlier years, but this time he was doing well. Like really well. So well in fact that he earned himself a spot in the FNCS Major 1 Grand Finals. This was a huge deal. Not only did he make Grand Finals at barely 14 years old, but he also did it on EU, which was the hardest region in all of Fortnite. Not to mention, he qualified for Grand Finals only about a year after making his first earnings. Unfortunately for Moneymaker and his duo, they would only finish 36th out of 50th place, but they did earn themselves $1,500, which isn't bad at just 14 years old. However, the bad news would only continue as Moneymaker would fail to qualify with Brantman to Major 2. However, on August 13th later that year, they did manage to get into Major 3, where he was of course the youngest player in the lobby.
Moneymaker's actually the youngest player in this lobby. Weirdly enough though, he's just like not the most unexperienced player by extension, right? He's had his fair share of competitive experience.
This time he was playing with a new duo, Fanayan, and the two of them placed 26th out of 50 teams, which was 10 places higher than he did in Major 1. Unfortunately, this 26th placement didn't qualify them for the Global Championships in Copenhagen, which means that Moneymaker and his duo would have to make it in the last chance qualifiers. This tournament was even more stressful than usual because there was only one day of competition with just 6 games where only the top 9 qualified for LAN. Since there were so few games, players had to be on top of their game or else. And luckily for Moneymaker, this would be his best tournament ever. Him and his duo Fanayan managed to snag a win during the 3rd game with 9 eliminations.
There's no builds left inside this endgame.
And that's the problem, is that the team that's on height is just having an absolute field day, non-stop spraying down onto everyone below. It's Fanayan, it's Moneymaker just playing devastators to the entirety of this lobby as if they didn't have enough to worry about. Marine gonna try to get a piece of the action instead. He'll wind up falling here. It's Propsy Hero doing what he can to try and recover some sort of footing, but the legendary Slurp Juice, the Mediness, they're only gonna buy so much time. Moneymaker will wind up dropping here, doesn't have any builds, knows that he can just play the aggressor here, trying to hunt out these players that are left standing, but it's a solo situation up against the likes of Fanayan and Moneymaker. And the zone just one more time, Shio, keeps being as brutal as ever with the way that it's pulling over height. And that's all it takes. Fanayan, Moneymaker, they don't need to find that last solo. They just needed the zones.
When all 6 games were said and done, they finished 6th and qualified himself and his duo for Global Championships.
Welcome to the FNCS Global Championship.
The actual tournament would take place on October 13th through 15th in Copenhagen, Denmark. And this was a big deal because it was the first ever FNCS held outside of North America, and being from Sweden, this was sort of like home turf for Moneymaker. On day 1, the two of them brought their A game and it paid off. They placed 14th in the lower bracket, above huge names like Clix, Epic Whale, Edgy, Dukes, Cooper, and Miro. This meant that Moneymaker and Fanayan would come back the next day and play in the grand finals at the Global Championships. The next day finally came around, and the moment everyone was waiting for, Moneymaker walked into the tournament looking, happy to be there, I guess.
Age doesn't matter for Moneymaker and Fanayan. Young and talented are key words for these guys, and now they're here to give it their all.
Unfortunately, Moneymaker and Fanayan did not do as well as they wanted to do on the second day, and they placed 35th out of 50. And I'm sure you guys remember who won that one.
Day one getting knocked out of the upper bracket to standing tall here.
Lift that trophy! Congratulations, Muir! Congratulations, Cooper! How amazing it must feel!
And although 35th out of 50 is not great, this wasn't just on the EU region, this was the entire world, so Moneymaker still performed well considering that these were the best of the best on the planet. But even though Moneymaker didn't get a good placement, he got something a little bit more valuable: viral fame. As you guys saw, Moneymaker's walkout was a little bit odd. He stuck out from the rest of the competitors like a sore thumb. He was very short and looked even way younger than his actual age of 14. Everyone was wondering, who is this kid and where are his parents? Honestly, a lot of people were kind of mean to Moneymaker, and it probably would have been devastating for a lot of other kids his age, but Moneymaker decided to use this attention, positive or negative, to his advantage. Moneymaker would start to post more on YouTube, and then about a month later after Globals on November 7th, he would make a Twitch account. 2 days later, he would host his first ever live stream, and he absolutely blew up. By New Year's Day, just a month and a half later, he would already have 160,000 followers on Twitch and averaged thousands of viewers every stream. He captured audiences with his strange personality,
If you move, you're gay. Oh yeah.
his fantastic singing,
Salsa with the popular. How you just with the popular? Everybody scream, Mr. Popular.
and of course, his incredible skill at the game.
200.
Nice. Behind.
200.
Oh my.
And it kind of shocked everyone that he was so good at the game while also being a troll. This caught attention of a lot of big names in Fortnite, and everybody wanted to collab with him, including names like Clix and Cypher PK.
Moneymaker.
What's good, bro? You winning or not? We lost. You lost? You're so quiet.
You grew a lot, no? Say no. He's almost taller than you.
Yo.
Bro, he used to be like this tall.
Bro, no, he's not.
At Copenhagen, he was so short.
What's your favorite Fortnite dance?
What is it?
What? Oh, wait, sing it.
Yeah, how do you do that one?
Sing it. Twitch rate host. Clicks host. Come on, bro. That's more than $1,000. Let me tell you that. 3, 2, 1.
Salsa with the popular. Are you just a bit popular?
Yeah, the big money. Hey, good luck, bro. He really thinks I'm hosting him? Jesus,
What?
we are not hosting him. He just
I said
for free. That's
5
insane.
At the end of 2023, Moneymaker was literally on top of the Fortnite world. And not only that, he was starting to expand on TikTok as well, and gaining more and more followers across the internet. In just 1 year, he went from qualifying in his first grand finals to going to the global championships and then blowing up on Twitch, TikTok, and YouTube. Things were going incredible in 2023.
Let's fucking go. Come here, Pookie Bear. Come here, Pookie Bear. Salad told them popular. Salad told them popular. Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Ohio Wrist Party TikTok. Ohio Wrist Party. Maximum aura. Max aura.
This E-Date, I'm going to be picking Moneymaker.
Oh my god, Jack!
Unfortunately, however, 2024 would not be spectacular. In fact, it would be devastating. Moneymaker didn't make it into any of the majors, which meant that he wasn't allowed to go to global finals either, and he even got banned on Twitch. Because Moneymaker wasn't able to make it to the big Fortnite tournaments, he started streaming less and less, and the hype around him started to die out. And by the end of 2024, it looked like he was just another trend in the Fortnite community. See, one of the biggest problems with Moneymaker's success is that it was largely based on one thing: the fact that he was actually one of the best young Fortnite competitors. And unfortunately, everyone has to grow up at some time. And when these young players grow up, they have to find a way to pivot and make themselves popular in another way. You need to start a new trend and find a way to hold on to your fans instead of just dying off as another meme. But Moneymaker didn't really do that. He kept dragging on old jokes, singing popular, and using the same routine he always did for the entirety of his career. Slowly but surely, people started to stop caring about Moneymaker and his streams. And especially since they didn't see him playing in massive Fortnite tournaments, it kinda seemed like everybody started to forget about him. So like clockwork, at the beginning of 2025, people started to say that Moneymaker fell off. However, he is doing his best to make a comeback as of recently. This past February, he actually competed in the Major 1 Grand Finals on EU and placed 31st. And then recently in Major 2 Grand Finals, he finished 15th with his old duo Fanayan and Faded. So clearly Moneymaker is back in the game. And although he might not be as young as he was during the height of his popularity, it's possible we could see Moneymaker make a huge comeback if he really wants to dedicate his time and energy to building a new brand. But that's only if he wants to. Moneymaker was super young when he went viral, and it's possible that it was overwhelming and he didn't even like it. Maybe he just wants to be a normal kid that plays Fortnite with his friends and streams every so often. Who knows? All that really matters is that he's happy and he enjoys what he's doing. I, for one, am a huge fan and I think he's absolutely hilarious, so I'll be tuning in to any Moneymaker streams that I have time for, and I recommend you guys do too. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I appreciate every single one of you. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, comment who you want me to make my next video about, hit the thumbs up, and I will see you in the next video. Peace!